É suposto começarmos a admitir já pessoas na sala de espera?
Não. A Inês faz isso tudo ao mesmo tempo. Admite todas as pessoas ao mesmo tempo.
Admitir.
Bom dia.
Bom dia.
Bom dia.
Bom dia.
Bom dia.
Olá, bom dia.
Bom dia.
Bom dia.
Bom dia. Making circular economy happen is a key step towards meeting the Sustainable Development Goals. Welcome to the online conference, Circular Economy, Make It Happen. My name is João Graça. I work in the Research, Development and Innovation Unit of LIPOR, and I'm the chair of the Smart Waste Portugal Young Professionals. I will be the host for this event. We have a very rich program comprising great presentations from young researchers on the topic of circular economy. I would like to inform you that this event is being streamed and will be made available in the YouTube channel of Smart Waste Portugal. I'm pleased to introduce you, Ms. Luísa Magalhães, the CEO of Smart Waste Portugal. So Luísa, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Luísa Magalhães and I'm the Executive Director of Smart Waste Portugal. I would like to congratulate João Graça, Coordinator of Smart Waste Young Professional, all those who contributed to the realization of this conference, the speakers and all the participants. I would like also to start by congratulating Engenheiro Filipe Araújo, Vice President of the Porto City Council, who is present here, I think, and he will be our keynote speaker. Thank you in advance for his presence. Smart Waste Portugal, created in 2015, is a non-profit private association Sorry, I think it was a problem of the sound. Smart Waste Portugal, created in 2015, is a non-profit private association with 131 members and which has been asserting itself as a reference entity in the national context in the process of transition to a circular economy, promoting synergies and collaboration, generating new business based on circularity, producing knowledge and information, and stimulating various different working groups. In this context, the association has been acting in several areas to the dynamization of working groups. For example, the waste collection sector, waste-derived fuels, plastics, food waste, construction and demolition waste, among others. In March 2020, Smart Waste Portugal Young Professionals was created. This is a group created by Smart Waste Portugal aimed at young professionals aged 35 years or under who have professional activity or are interested in the thematic of circular economy. It is a very diverse group oriented towards the entire value chain, which aims, among other things, to support Smart Waste Portugal as well as its members within the association's mission. During this first year of existence, Smart Waste Portugal, SWYP, has revealed itself as an armed wing of Smart Waste Portugal, contributing to the most diverse thematics in which knowledge, experiences, and skills improvement is shared, so relevant these days. The circular economy motto of this conference is a key element to promote the decoupling between economic growth and the increase in resource consumption and the production of waste. It goes beyond the scope and strict focus of waste management and recycling actions, aiming at a broader action from the redesign of process products and new business models to the optimization of the use of resources. Thus, it aims to develop new products and services that are economically viable and ecologically efficient. And it is in this sense that the presentations we will hear today are so relevant for the promoting of the future. Innovation is the motto for the transition to a more circular economy and should be seen as an opportunity for companies, industries to be at the forefront of new solutions and to be resilient to change. Companies and the scientific and technological system must act collaboratively as engines of innovation, seeking to minimize the production of waste through more efficient processes that promote the competitiveness of the industry and valorization of existing resources. So I would like to close by saying that it is an honor to be able to be part of this first Smart Waste Young Professionals Conference. Wish all the speakers good luck and keep up the good work. So have a good conference to all.
So thank you, Luisa, for your kind and insightful words. No longer a far-fetched concept, not only a buzzword, circular economy is the base of important strategies such as the Circular Economy Action Plan of the European Commission, one of the building blocks of the so-called European Green Deal. Portugal has fantastic examples of circular economy practices, and the Portuguese research community is deeply committed in innovating in this field and paving way for a more sustainable future. Young researchers in this field have therefore a golden opportunity and an unprecedented mission to make circular economy happen. This conference, with over 240 registered participants, is a milestone for SWYP, the Smart Waste Portugal Young Professionals Group. SWYP is a voluntary group open to anyone with 35 years or less that works or has interest in topics related with the circular economy. SWYP was formed last year with the vision of an economy without waste and the mission of creating work and knowledge sharing networks among young professionals who see waste as important economic and social resource. From the start, SWYP has defined 5 key objectives, which include supporting young professionals in the development of their careers and fostering future leaders, sharing knowledge, case studies, and good practices related to the management of resources. This conference observes closely these objectives. On one hand, this conference aims to promote research performed by young professionals in Portugal in the field of circular economy. On the other hand, it aims to support their careers, providing visibility, experience of presenting work in a conference held to the highest international standards. The concept and model of this conference is inspired by the online conference of SWYP, the Young Professionals Group of the International Solid Waste Association. The online conference of SWYP, which will have this September its 4th edition, provides a great opportunity for researchers up to 35 years old from all over the world to present their work in topics related to waste management to a vast and interested audience. So if you're a young researcher, pay attention to this conference. Back to SWYP. To make our conference more dynamic and informative, please feel free to use the chat to introduce yourself and place comments and questions to the speakers. Please make sure to identify to whom you're addressing these questions and comments. We will have 3 sessions comprising presentations selected through an abstract competition. To participate in this competition, the researchers had to be 35 years old or less, and their work had to evidence a practical impact in circular economy. I confess, we are fully aware that we set a very ambitious target by defining such strict requirements. Fortunately, our bet paid off, and the presentations that you'll see in these 3 sessions correspond to 12 abstracts of very high quality. An award will be attributed to the 3 best presentations. So the first place will receive a scholarship to participate in the ISWA Swiss 2022 Winter School in Texas, USA. The second place and the third places will receive a sponsorship for participating in training or education initiatives. We will also publish all of our presenters' abstracts in the conference book, which will be made available on the Smart Waste Portugal website soon. So we are grateful to the Solid Waste Institute for Sustainability in the person of Professor Sahad Hossein, and to LIPOR in the person of Mr. Fernando Leite for the sponsorship that made this conference possible. We also would like to thank Smart Waste Portugal in the person of Ms. Luisa Magalhães for supporting SWYP in every step of this organization. A special thank you note to our invited speakers. So the keynote, Mr. Filipe Araújo, a front runner on smart cities and innovation. Thank you for joining us today. The Soja de Portugal case study presenter, Dr. Telmo Fernandes, an ambitious young professional with a soundtrack in food sciences. Thank you both for accepting our invitation and presenting very concrete applications of circular economy that certainly will be an inspiration for all of us. I'd like to mention that this conference was organized by a committee composed of 11 young professionals that work in 6 different entities who delivered their best efforts to create an enriching conference. I feel lucky to have worked close with all these dedicated groups, so thank you all. If you want to have more information about SWYP or hopefully join the group, please visit the website shared in the box. So we wish you all an excellent conference. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm taking a great pleasure in introducing our conference keynote speaker, Mr. Filipe Araújo. So Mr. Araújo is the Vice Mayor of Porto Municipality and Councillor for Innovation and Environment. He is the Chairman of Porto Energy Agency, Porto Digital Association, and Eurocities Environmental Forum. He has important management and advisory roles in different entities related to academia, environment, and innovation, including LIPOR and Porto Ambiente. So let's welcome again Mr. Araújo. Mr. Araújo, the floor is yours. Okay, I'm receiving now the information that Mr. Filipe Araújo is just joining, having troubles with logging in the event. So please hold a couple of minutes. Bear with us. So to provide a little bit more detail on today's program, we aim to provide a comprehensive view on the circular economy research that is going on in Portugal at the present, and we'll have therefore three key sessions, which will be the first one on new approaches and materials to promote the circular economy. It will have 3 presentations of very interesting titles related to this topic. The second one will be high value products from food waste, and it will comprise 5 presentations. And the third session will be from man-made problems to circular solutions, and it will comprise also 4 very interesting programs. So we're very exciting to see all these presentations. And I believe that now we have Mr. Filipe Araújo with us.
Yes, good morning. Bom dia.
So, Mr. Araújo, the floor is yours.
Okay. Well, first of all, let me, since I noticed that you are, the conference should be in English. If it is in English, I have a little problem because my presentation is in Portuguese, but I will try to go and translate. There is no other way I can do it right now. So let me. We have a lot of participants coming from outside. Sorry. Or mainly.
Yes, so we have quite a few from other countries. So if you would be able to provide at least to speak in English, that would be.
In English, there's no problem with that. I will do it, but I will try to give the explanations in English and try to help people to understand the slides when I'm presenting them. No, let's see how it goes, and if someone has some doubts, I will of course try to explain.
Fantastic, thank you very much.
Okay, so let me share this first. Please just confirm that you are seeing it.
Yes.
Everything clear? Yes.
Okay. Well, and the other thing is just to make sure that I have around 15 minutes, right, until 9:30. Can you confirm that, please?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Thank you very much. Just well, good morning, everyone. First of all, it's a pleasure to be with you, speaking in a hot topic for Porto, for the city of Porto. Definitely something that we have been working quite a few time from now, some years, and with several things that we are doing. I hope that what I'm going to present helps most of you that I think are developing, or at least in the research and development areas, where they are looking for opportunities and things in this subject that is definitely just a change in our model of life, of economy, changing to something that is not linear, to circular. It's a big change, but the only change that we can do right now in order to cope with the things that we will have to face in the future. And if we don't do it, we know where we are going to end. So it's more or less that. So Porto, as the circular economy in Porto, we have been developing a roadmap for Porto in terms of circular economy for 2030. So this was a very participative thing that we do, so involving many stakeholders from the city, dozens and dozens of them. So they've been participating. We developed a roadmap. This is just for you, of course, not to try to understand what it is, but it's just to a picture that I usually like to present, because it gives more or less the feeling that the circular economy in terms of the city and what we were already doing at the time that we start looking for the roadmap. We already had lots of things that we are engaging in terms of circular economy. This is just one of the first maps that we did it. But from for example in Lipor with the energy valorization of the waste. and the organic valorization, and many other things that we are doing at the time. We have developing a strategy that was going around all these topics that we are looking here. So I will try to translate them a little bit. So one servitization in terms of using services and not buying things. The urban water cycle, so working on all the water issues, the food circularity, the single-use plastics in terms of repairability, reusing things, sharing infrastructures, industrial symbiosis, circular, so all the things related with the construction. So all these subjects that you usually make a connection between cities and all these subjects, and others that we were also using, like renewable and clean energy, or even mobility as the circularity also in mobility, but also looking to sustainable public procurement, and also other things like waste management, or even working also on many other issues related with research and many others. What we have been doing, and we have been a long way, so I will not take too much time here, just to make sure that, like I said, it was developed some years ago. We have been engaging with, for example, Ellen MacArthur Foundation. We were on the urban agenda for circular economy. We have several right now big projects from H2020, so Horizon 2020 and others, and we have been also working with many other stakeholders in Portugal, like that are also engaging on this. So we have been with quite a few projects right now, and I will explain a little bit what are the actions, what we have been doing. So on circular economy, we have several projects ongoing. Some of them are quite old, which is quite well. When we are talking about circular economy, usually we have to take in mind that we don't need necessarily to think that everything will be invented or developed from now on. Most of the things we have already. Some of them are in the past, and we get rid of them, and we have to get back to the ways we did some things. And this is a good example, the material bank. So we save materials from demolishing and other buildings, and we save them, the ones that, for example, the tiles and other things, and we make them available for other constructions. And so we have also services for construction demolishing waste, and specific centers where you can deliver them. We have been in the region also working with an agenda for this waste, and also on the metropolitan area. So the single-use plastics, something that we have been quite active, and we have been developing several things regarding this, from our from changes in our regulations for our procurement in the public procurement, but also working with promoting water from the tap water, like you are seeing in the image down, our own bottles, promoting people to use the tap water, and many other on events, for example, getting rid of single-use plastics, and many other things that we are putting in place. So in reusing and repairability, we have been with also many other projects coming from, for example, the books that the kids use in schools, scholar books. Sorry, the translation sometimes from Portuguese and can be wrong. So, but we have been like, there is a bank where people which don't use the books can deliver them, and we can provide them to the next year's children, so they don't have buy new ones. We have been also in a very nice project working with many municipalities on the Brew, developed by Lipor, where there is a specific teams that we have for repairability, and we have been then providing this electronic or electric things to people that want to use them. Like, for example, you can see the toast in the image, or repair cafes, or even a very nice project coming from, and this is something that I usually want to stress, is that I'm talking as a public entity, of course, but I have to stress that there is now a lot of private entities involved on circular economy, and this is the very good thing, because it more or less explains that the snowball that we were developing is now in movement. So, and if it starts to move, then it goes bigger and bigger and faster, and the pace will increase. So the replay is a very good example. It comes from Fab Lab, Oppo Lab. So this Fab Lab in Porto, together with other projects from plastic, they are collecting toys and giving them a new life. So with many even machines that destroy the plastic and build, for example, the I don't know how it's called, the line that's now, or the fiber that is used then in the 3D printing machine. So lots of good and bright projects that are coming to the city and to Portugal. Reboot is also a project that we are now starting, financed by EE grants, and it will be developed on Asprella, and it's about giving life to computers and many other things using the old computers that the people from the students from university have, and making them also working with us to try to give them a new life, to people that still have something to do with them. So making it a little bit faster. Servitization is something very easy. Is a lot regarding, like I said, making use of services, buying services, and not buying and having our own stuff that is then most of the time stopped without any use. So buying, for example, hours of machinery or other things that we can put in place. And so that's something that we have, for example, the renting our cars and many other things that we are putting also in place. The urban cycle, water cycle, here we have been working a lot on digitalization, so of all the cycle to make sure that we make the best use of water. And we are working also on efficiency, and I would stress here one example is to look to the wastewater treatment plant as a resource factory. So something that you can look there and see that what you can do with the mud, and making from mud to organic compost, or from mud to biogas. So a lot of projects that we are engaging right now, and the tens of millions of euros that we will be investing here. Also making use of digital transition, for example, on having the best use of water for example, to our parks and gardens. Industrial symbiosis is something very important. We have been trying to push also this, because there is a lot of waste from different types of industry that in reality is a good resource for others. So, and the connection between these companies is definitely something that we have to work on, and we have been developing several projects on that. On the food chain, let's say, the thing that we are trying to do is to promote the resilience of the food systems, and to have the loop closed between between this subject, let's say. And what we are working on is from stimulating the local production and the regional production. So a lot regarding, for example, with our urban farms and things that we are promoting in our territory, but also looking to how we can promote the proximity with local producers. And this is something that we are, for example, also developing in Asprella with the e-grants project, where we want to make this connection much more, how do you say, much more transparent and reliable, let's say, so people use local products much more than others. And I think the pandemic has shown us this is the right way to go through. Another thing that we are working very hard is on the other side. So I talked about production. Now I'm talking about how we recover the organic waste. And for example, in Porto, we are now developing a project that will arrive to 60% of the population. So 60% of the population will have in a few months the possibility of organic separation. So we have already around 20,000 houses that already use organic separation, but we will continue this until we have 60% of the population. We have already the non-domestic part covered, so we are now working very hard on the residential. So collecting and trying to close the loop, and the loop closes with the valorization of this waste, where we have our treatment plants in Lipor, and from these treatment plants we make organic compost that goes back to the fields. Nevertheless, we can never forget that we have also to work on the side of preventing that people use too much things, for example, in the restaurants, that people don't consume in the end. Or so we have several things several projects ongoing on this side also, which is also something on the circular economy that we cannot forget. So we have to manage this part also. So to finish, and I'm already trying to accelerate, but it's the last two slides, and I will try to translate them so people understand. I think since I am in the presence of many bright people that will definitely help us to accelerate this change, I brought here two slides that are just how do you say, something to think about. And it's something that, for example, what would be Porto in 2030, and to try to have objectives or at least an image of what could be. And I would start, and I would say that we would like to see the universities with a research very focused on circular economy and developing all this stream. We would like to see schools contributing for the transformation of all the consumption habits. So we have students that are very prone to work on circularity. We would like to see the citizens and the families very focused on the issues related to that, to their footprints. And how they can change things, how they can change their daily life and the choices that they make. We would like to see the energy in the city mostly renewable, very efficient, and without energy poverty. We would like to see a sharing economy, an economy that also looks for repairability, for reusing things, for reusing infrastructure. So infrastructure that can be a parking, but it's also used for culture, and it's all use every day of the time, and they were built, that the things are built also looking to their end of cycle, how they can be reused again. We would like to see a city full of green, and this green could help in recovering the rain water, so it can be used for watering the green spaces and using on for example urban cleaning. We'd like to see all the services that use a large amount of water to start using water coming out of the wastewater treatment plants. We would like to see an ecosystem of repairing all the electric and electronic equipments. We would like also to see that our public procurement, or the procurement for everyone, is respecting the circularity, that the municipality no longer owns a big park of machinery, equipments, tools, and uses as services instead. A population that is very demanding for local products that are organic produce, very sustainable. We would like also to see that at least 30% of the food coming to the city comes from local producers, and that the metropolitan area is working on to be to get rid of waste from food chain, and that's the 60% of this waste on food is that we can avoid it, and that 70% of the wastes, that organic waste, is treated. We'd like to see that the industries are definitely working on industrial symbiosis, and that we have a reduction on wastes, and that its management is very innovative and with great proximity from citizens and companies, so working on this circular economy. So thank you very much. I hope I could try to translate, and the ones that don't understand Portuguese, that could at least follow the thoughts and the strategy that Porto has for circular economy. Thank you very much.
So thank you again, Mr. Filipe Araújo, for your excellent presentation. It was indeed a great perspective and a fantastic example of a city with a circular mindset. And thank you also for the aspect of translating on the spot, which you did brilliantly. And I think it was a very, very clear message that you could pass. Ladies and gentlemen, we come here now to our first session on the topic new approaches and materials to promote circular economy. I remind you that this is the first of 3 sessions for which the speakers were selected by an abstract competition. The awards will be given to the best 3 works of this conference. I'd like to invite Dr. Guilherme Ascensão to moderate this session. So before I do this, I'd like to introduce you Dr. Ascensão. So he has a background in civil engineering with a degree from University of Évora and master's by the University of Aveiro. He has a PhD in material engineering by KU Leuven and in environmental and civil engineering by the University of Padova. He is a researcher at Secolab, and his work concerns the valorization of industrial wastes and byproducts. He is also a member of the Smart Waste Portugal Young Professionals. So let's welcome again Dr. Ascensão. So Guilherme, the floor is yours.
Thank you, João. Thank you for your kind words, and on my behalf and on behalf of Secolab, thank the organization for this wonderful event and for inviting us to moderate this first session of today, entitled New Approaches and Materials to Promote Circular Economy. The session will be composed of 3 presentations, as you already said. And I invite you, all the attendees, to put their questions using the chat that will be addressed by the presenters during the Q&A session. So without further ado, I would like to welcome our first presenter, Bruno Augusto, whose presentation title is Supporting the Transition to Smart Cities Through Circular Economy. Bruno has a master's degree in environmental science from the University of Aveiro and is also currently doing his PhD there in science and environmental engineering. He has already published 4 articles and participated in several research projects where the core of his work is focused on modeling urban heat and in finding nature-based solutions. Please, Bruno, the floor is yours, and you have about 7 minutes to present.
Okay, thank you, João. I'll be sharing my screen now. Just a second. Am I sharing the screen?
Yes.
Okay. So let me just, sorry. Just a second here. Okay. So good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me here today. I'm a PhD student from the doctoral program of Environmental Science and Engineering and from the Department of Environment and Planning of the University of Aveiro, and I'm part of CESAM as well. And today I'm here to talk to you about using modeling tools to analyze the regional economic metabolism of an area and use that to promote and identify opportunities for circular economy and thus support the transition to smart cities. Yeah, sorry, this is a problem. So in the end of 2017, Portugal approved an action plan for circular economy, and this plan presents 3 main levels of action. One of them includes the development of regional agendas adapted to the socioeconomic specificities of each region, which have the purpose of creating and promoting to identify potentialities and for the implementation of territorial-based actions adapted to their specificities. Now, these agendas must be supported with a characterization of the regional economic metabolism and the specificities and values of the territory. To do an analysis of a regional economic metabolism, one must have an integrated vision of the material flows throughout an economy that are relevant to the regional socio-economical development. And that goes by knowing the products and materials in the economy, identifying the opportunities, and promoting symbiosis at different scales. So the goal for this specific study was to develop an economic metabolism analysis for the Alentejo region. The challenge was to develop a simplified material flow analysis model specific to that region, and how by gathering, treating, and operationalizing data from activities and products for that region. So the specific region is NUT2 level, Alentejo, and it's composed of 4 subregions, the NUT3 level, Alto Alentejo, Alentejo Central, Alentejo Litoral, and Baixo Alentejo. So for that, the regional metabolism model, REMETO-A, was developed. And it was developed to identify, it allows to identify feasible and logistic opportunities for the efficient use of resources between the regional agents, based on the knowledge of quantities of material and subproducts in each location. The model can be focused on specific material flow analysis to seek opportunities of circularity. It is scalable, meaning that it's capable of adapting to any territorial scale and flexible to alterations according to the user needs. It's also participative, meaning that it can and should be implemented with help from regional agents. And it's regionalized. It's ready to have into account interactions between the different NUT3 subregions or other regions as per user needs. This is a little flow chart of the model, how it works. First, you have the boundary definition. This is where it's very important. This is where we define what are the regions and subregions we want to have the interconnections between them. Then we have the material categories definition. The base categories are from Eurostat, but the user can change the categories. However, it's really very important to be very precise in how you define them. Then it goes by data organization, data insertion, and then the interpretation of results provided by the model. So since this is a material flow analysis, there are inflows and outflows for the sub-region, in this case, the nut tree level. And for inflows, the model takes into account the international and national imports, the imports from other sub-regions, and domestic extractions. As per outflows, the model takes into account exports outside the region, the nut 2 in this case, exports to another sub-region, and emissions, and these can be water, air, or waste. Inside the sub-region, the model takes into account consumption and provides the stock, the material or what's left inside the region. The model provides two types of results: a quantitative analysis with indicators consistent with those analyzed by Eurostat, both in total value and per capita. There is the direct material input, the domestic material consumption, the domestic processed output, net additions to stock, and physical trade balance. There are also the qualitative analysis, and these are composed of the distribution of inputs, outputs, and stock for each of the region and sub-regions, and the distribution of the material categories, biomass materials, specific chemicals, whatever the material is, for inputs and outputs in each region. The model provides several types of graphics. These types of graphics provide a lot of information about the economic status of a product. Regional entities or enterprises can utilize this type of information to make more reasonable decisions about the production or sale of the products and to seek market opportunities in the region or between the sub-regions and for export of a product. This type of graphic also is an innovative way to graphically present the results and allows for a vision over the international imports of nut tree region, in this case, promoting an integrated view of more specific flows of materials for this region. Now, this is just an example. The same can and is done in the model for national imports, domestic extraction, and exports, and to other regions. Now, this graphic was specifically made for policymakers because it allows, in a simple format, to understand the majority of products that contribute to that type of economic relation. Now, to conclude, the Remet-2A model allows, through a mass balance, a quantitative and qualitative evaluation of the interactions between the subregions. It's fully operational, allowing to identify business opportunities and circularity potential, and this will ultimately lead to smart cities. However, the model is very data dependent, and available data is very dispersed. It's not at all detailed, and it has various degrees of confidence. For example, we found for two official Portuguese databases the same specific parameter with two different values. One of the other problems is the time required for the collection of information, which is not yet systematized. Okay, thank you very much for your time. Please feel free to ask any questions, and I will try my best to answer them.
Thank you, Bruno. Thank you for your excellent presentation. We already received a few questions about your presentation, but we will address them in the end during the Q&A of this session. Thank you for keeping the time. It was excellent, by the way. But unfortunately, we just received a message from the second presenter that will not be able to attend, Damaris Costa. It's a pity, but it was a last-minute problem that prevents Damaris to be here with us today. So we will jump to the third, what was supposed to be the third presenter of today. That will be Diogo Proença. Please welcome Diogo. Diogo will present a presentation entitled Bacterial Biodegradable Polymers for Sustainable and Circular Economy. Diogo is a microbiologist and a biochemist with a broad background that goes from microbiology to biological control, genome mining, and taxonomy of new bacterial species. He has worked already in several countries, from Portugal, Brazil, Germany, and the US, and is involved in several research projects for which he already received 21 awards. Congratulations, this is an outstanding performance of yours, Diogo. But what's fascinating me more about Diogo is a passionate communicator of science, and is also involved in several projects of communicating science and two cost actions. He's also a reviewer and editor of several international journals. So please, Diogo, proceed your presentation. The floor is full yours, and you also have about 7 minutes to do your presentation. Diogo, your microphone is off. You need to turn it on.
Okay. Thank you, Guilherme, for the introduction. Good morning, everyone. First, I would like to thank the organizers for accepting this work to be presenting here today and for this amazing initiative. My name is Diogo Proença. I'm a researcher at the University of Coimbra, and I will present the work entitled Bacterial Biodegradable Polymers for a Sustainable and Circular Economy. We are living in a world with overpopulation that using and produce tons of plastics. Majority of these plastics are petroleum-based plastics used on our daily lives with industrial, agriculture, and medical applications, and are non-degradable plastics. As a consequence, we are facing to environmental pollution, human health injuries, and death of animals. So it is necessary to find new solutions or alternatives to petroleum-based plastics. Polyhydroxyalkanoates are polyesters naturally produced and accumulate as granules inside bacterial cells, for example. Their physiological and thermal properties depend on each producer organism and cultivation conditions. And these polymers have multiple properties and applications. As an example, the bacterial Rastoniotropha that I'm showing here, as you can see, is a well-known PHA producer. On its genome as a cluster PHA CAV involved in the production of PHB. And the aim of this study is to find new bacterial polymers producers and new biodegradable microbial polymers. In this work, we used 106 bacterial strains from University of Coimbra Bacteria Culture Collection. That is our culture collection at the university. And we looking for the strains that are able to produce the PHA. So if they were positive, the cells become dark, and if they were negative, the cells become red. As a result, 1/3 of isolates showed positive for PHA producers, and most of them belonging to the gamma proteobacteria class. The genome mining of each strain was performed in order to find key genes involved in PHA production and deciphering its genetic organization. As you can see, we start with a single cell, extract the DNA, sequence the genome, and look and search for the specific genes. As the key gene, PHA-C, involved in the PHA production, that is the gene encoding for PHA synthase, was found in 55 bacterial genomes. Combining the genomic information and biochemical screening, the best 5 bacterial producers were selected and show a different optimal producing parameters. As you can see, in these 5 graphs, it belongs to the 5 bacterial strains, were analyzed different pH, temperature, carbon source, and incubation time. Each strain showed different parameters as optimal conditions for PHA production. Therefore, at the optimal conditions, the polymers of each strain were characterized by FTIR and NMR. The PHA of these strains show a difference when compared to the literature. Some of them, as you can see, have the similar pattern, but they have some difference. And these differences are different from the literature, from this analysis by FTR and also by NMR. In conclusion, this work showed new bacterial producers and new polymers, and it is necessary to perform further characterization to obtain the properties you can use by DSC, TTG, and also TGA to evaluate the significant difference in the thermal properties of PHA. And we hope to obtain new plastics with economic potential, a real alternative to conventional plastics, enhancing the planet's sustainability and circular economy. I would like to thank to our group, in special to Professor Paula Moraes, that is our group leader, and Diogo Vicente Rodrigues, that is our student that promote and develop most of the results that I present here. So thank you everyone for listening to me.
Thank you, Diogo, for your very comprehensive presentation, which was very interesting. And thank you all to Bruno for the first presentation. I think it was a great session. Unfortunately, we didn't have the chance to hear the presentation of Tamaris. That is unfortunately, but we will now continue with the Q&A session. We received quite a few questions. I will select a few of them. And the first goes to Bruno and is related to the variability between regions and the scale and how you are accounting for that variability. I imagine that the question that we received was regarding the difference between large urban areas and small cities, and if your tool is able to adapt to these different scales and the different challenges behind it.
So yeah, thank you for the question. About the different challenges behind them, that might be a little more work because the model at the moment does not account for the productions. So it's just material flow analysis, but it is fully adaptable for any region or area, whatever you want it to be, you can be adapted. If you want to adapt the model to take for the region to be a house, you can do that. If you want a city, you can do that. If you want a cluster of cities and the interactions between different cities inside the cluster, that's possible to do. So yeah.
I would like to add the second question on top of that, is that you are looking further behind materials flows and the dynamics of materials and imports export, and if you are also accounting for the social aspects and the environmental aspects of this economical transition and these dynamics between regions and clusters of cities.
Yeah. At the moment, no. That might be one of the developments in the pipeline for the model to account for more things, but at the moment it's just a material flow analysis. Yeah.
Thank you for your answer. It was a great answer. And I hope you have success in reaching this tool that can be adaptable for different scales from small cities to large urban areas like Portugal. Will be of great useful. So I will now jump to Diogo so everyone can have a question to their own. If I can sum up some of the questions that we received, Diogo, is regarding closing the loop of your materials. If you on your genome mining work, are you looking already to the post-use phase? Are you trying to design materials that have second applications, third application, or natural decay that is not harmful for the environment?
Yes, that is the point. We are looking for the specific genes that are involved in the plastic, bioplastic production, and we are now characterizing these products, these polymers, and we hope to have different properties from the ones that are already described. And if it is true, as we believe, so we will have new products that will be biodegradable, as we expect, because they belong to the class PHA. So they are known as biodegradable plastics. And we hope to have some difference, and that can be used to overcome the petroleum-based plastics. Is our target.
I think that the question was more regard to before composting. I think when you refer to biodegradable, are you talking about facilities to compost this kind of bioplastics? About an integrated cycle that allows one in turn for applications before the end of life of the material.
Yeah,
I think the question was more in that sense.
Okay, before these plastics are used single-use plastics, but they are the properties with biodegradable plastics, so they can be compostable and completely degradable.
So sorry, we lost your last question, but I think your point was crystal clear that the materials will have natural decay with the added value of not being harmful to the environment after their use. So yeah. I think I will pass again to Bruno, and so maybe one more question to both of you. So Bruno, the second question that we have is about maybe a little bit on the opposite direction of the first question. Is that if you can streamline your tool for industrial applications, like to analyze a particular material flow within the company, or to search for opportunities for industrial optimization. If this tool of yours can be direction to industrial applications and not only for governments and for providing decision makers with to direct our policies.
Yeah. So short answer, yes. The long answer, I would say no, and long answer, yes as well. But I would say that for an industrial application, more interesting would be to apply for a product. So we have the full chain of the product, and there enters the material flow analysis, and that's one thing that we want to in the future implement. But yeah, we can just for the material, we can do that easily.
Okay. Now I just received a question from Saladini. I think is the correct pronunciation. It is asking how you will collect the data and how the difference between collect the data on the industrial case or in the government's case when analyzing a cluster of cities. What will be the difference, the major difficulties and challenges in these two models?
So in my experience, data from industries are more well guarded. So they are not as easily accessible to me, to people like me. But government data usually has, I wouldn't say less reliability, but sometimes less reliability. So in both cases, I think the accessibility and the existence at all of data is a problem. But that's one of the major shortcomings of the model, is because we can't, it's not a shortcoming of the model, it's a shortcoming of the data, but it eventually is one of the model. Yeah.
I think you will be able in the future to overcome this as people and companies and also other entities are more willing to share data for the good of all of us. Thank you for your answer. And for last, I will give the last question to Diogo, that people are chatting quite about it, is about the competitivity, economic competitivity of this new sort of plastics. There will be something that you will see as feasible in the near future, or cost-wise will not be that feasible to implement this kind of new plastics in the short term?
The costs are always a problem with producing bioplastics. And and we are facing to using different carbon source, not the commercial ones, but starting from the waste and recycling from the waste and using that as a carbon source. That is our also a aim that we have. And for now, most of the bioplastics are producing for starting with a commercial carbon source, and it is expensive. And we are trying to reduce that the cost, also trying to look for a circular economy.
Maybe we can count on like-minded cities as the city of Porto to jump the first stage of implementation and then reach the commercial level that is required. There is always an initial gap that is difficult to overcome, but I'm sure that we will be able to do so in a short period of time. Thank you, Bruno. Thank you, João, for your presentations, for your excellent work, and for your questions. Unfortunately, it's all the time we have for questions. I will be a pleasure for me to continue to ask you more about your works. But also thank you to all of you that submit questions that were not addressed. That is a limitation that we have, unfortunately. But now I will hand over the session again to João, and thank you for having me.
So thank you very much, Guilherme, and the speakers for this insightful session. So we will now have a short break. So after this break, we will continue with the rest of our sessions. So the following session will be the case study from Soja de Portugal, which will be presented by Dr. Telmo Fernandes. And then we'll have a session on high-value products from food waste. And this will be moderated by Mr. Tom Machad. So for now, we will have a break and we will be back to you by 10:25. So stay with us and see you soon. So welcome back. It is my pleasure to introduce to your conference Dr. Telmo Fernandes, who will present the case study of Soja de Portugal. Dr. Fernandes has a degree in biochemistry and a master's in quality control. He is a doctor in pharmaceutical sciences from the University of Porto. He has vast experience in food sciences, including a number of scientific publications and communications in international conferences. And he is innovation manager at Soja de Portugal. So let's welcome again Dr. Fernandes. Telmo, the floor is yours.
Thank you, João, for the kind words. Let me share my screen. It is okay?
Yes.
Yes, I think so.
Thank you. So, good morning, everyone. Firstly, I would like to thank Smart Waste Portugal for the invitation. And I will talk about the business model of Soja de Portugal, which relies on circular economy. Making a brief presentation of our group, Soja de Portugal is an economical group that initiated its activity in 1943, comprising some of the most important companies of the agro-food industry, such as Sorgal, Avicasal, and Savinor. In addition to its highly innovative and dynamic business activity, Soja de Portugal is also moved by social and environmental concerns. We have mainly three functional areas, which are animal nutrition, poultry, and UTS. These three areas comprise 5 business areas. These business areas match 6 different brands that are managed by 3 different companies. As I said before, Sorgal, Avicasal, and Savinor. The business areas are compound feed for poultry farming and livestock breeding, compound feed for aquaculture, dry food for dogs and cats, production, slaughter, butchering, and commercialization of poultry, and collection, treatment, and recovery of animal byproducts. We are located mostly in the north and center of the country, where we have production plants, poultry farms, slaughterhouses, and logistic platforms. We are always looking forward to develop competitive, innovative, and sustainable solutions with a high level of service. We also aim to be recognized as a business group of reference in the sector of agro-food industry. And our values are mostly based on innovation, cooperation, reliability, rigor, and responsibility. Now, talking about the numbers, our numbers of last year, at this moment, we have a relevant position in national and external markets with a foreign market share of 20%. We have 669 direct employees and 1,500 indirect employees. Total sales of 2020 were 175 million euros, which correspond to 78 from animal nutrition, 86 from poultry, and 11 from UTS business. Moving forward to the integration of sustainability in our group, Soja de Portugal has been working for more than 70 years for a sustainable growth, demonstrating its social and environmental concerns and attaching special importance to health and nutrition, quality and innovation. Based on these operating principles, in 2012, the sustainability strategy was defined. Thus, our sustainability strategy is based on 5 pillars: promoting responsible consumption, creating and distributing economic value, reducing the environmental impact, promoting human capital, and supporting the community. If anyone wants to know more about our sustainable strategy, please feel free to download our report in our website. Now, talking more specifically about our business model, it is based on circular economy principles, relying on material reuse and synergy creation between the different business areas. Our main goals are to preserve and increase the natural capital by managing the finite stocks while balancing the renewable resources, making all production items to circulate. to foster efficiency, and to continuously improve, namely by the transition to the use of energy from renewable resources, to reduce the carbon footprint. And this model is based on the concept, is our business model, which relies on circular economy, and it is based on the concept of recovering byproducts belonging to the group, which would normally be discarded, but instead are reintroduced, thereby helping to lower the group's raw material costs and reduce the company's environmental footprint. More precisely, the byproducts generated in the slaughtering and cutting process are immediately processed at Sabinor UTS and transformed into ingredients for animal nutrition, namely poultry meal and fat. Moreover, also byproducts from other industry are recovered, as the next video from Aqua Soja will show you. I hope you enjoyed the video. So, through the transformation and valorization of byproducts from other industry, Soja de Portugal manages to provide competitive, innovative, and sustainable solutions while maintaining high levels of service and quality. Greater control over the origin and quality of raw materials to reduce the carbon footprint, since raw materials are local and travel much less with no need to import them, and to ensure greater control of traceability of final products. At last, I would like to resume our main investments for energy efficiency. So our main investments are the construction of new thermal energy production plants, global change in the production of thermal energy, which now has biomass boilers replacing the old one, the fuel oil boilers. We no longer consume 15,000 tons of this fossil fuel, and CO2 emissions were also reduced. The installation of control and monitoring systems for drinking water consumption in all sectors of activity, allowing management to combat water waste. The construction also of 2 new wastewater treatment plants in companies with the highest water consumption. Adoption of water reuse systems in non-operational activities, for example, watering gardens and washing company streets. Installation at Sorgal of a photovoltaic energy production for self-consumption with an installed capacity of 1 megawatt peak. In the first quarter of 2021, there was a reduction of almost 70 tons of CO2 emitted, corresponding to about 3,000 trees, and a 20% reduction in energy consumption in this period. Also, the replacement of traditional light bulbs with LED technology, reducing electricity consumption, increasing the life of light bulbs, and making lighting more homogeneous. These investments also contribute to the circular economy practices in our group. Thank you very much for the attention, and I'll feel free to ask some questions.
Thank you very much, Telmo, for this great presentation. It's a good example of making circular economy happen. I don't know if there will be any questions or comments. Please place them in the chat. So I will start with one from my colleague, Soraya. What are the main sustainable goals that Soja de Portugal aims to accomplish in the next 10 years? And I'll complement this with a question of my own. What is being done now to achieve there? What are the key technologies, approaches that will be followed to support this?
I think one of the most challenging factors for the industry nowadays is this change in the mindset across all the stakeholders. For example, even if an industrial group is already in a stage of maturity in terms of implementing sustainable practices and the circular economy, it is always dependent on the practices of its stakeholders. So the interest, the long-term vision or motivation for change may vary substantially. I think this is particularly important, for example, when calculating the carbon footprint. Another one of the biggest challenges will be the perception of the finitude of stocks. Although this is often felt at the level of the price of raw materials, only when it is economically more favorable to some group. It is sustainable and environmentally friendly raw materials will be there a change in the paradigm of the transversal from at the industrial level. I don't know if I answer more or less the question.
Excellent, thank you very much. I think so. We have a next question, which is from Muriel Eaton from ISQ. Could you expand a little more on the thermal savings?
Yes, I think the idea of the group is precisely that, to save almost all the energy that we can by renewable resources. As I told, it was installed in Sorgal a photovoltaic panel, and it is the idea of the group to make that process in other companies of Soja de Portugal.
Yes, thank you very much. So if there are no further questions, I'd like to thank Telmo again for this interesting presentation. And
thank you very much.
Thank you. And we will now pass on to our. Oh, actually, we've got one more just coming in here, I think. So the question is, if there are some LCAs performed in the group, if you could provide any examples, life cycle analysis.
Sorry, I didn't understand.
So the question is if there are any life cycle analysis performed in the group, and if you can provide any examples.
Sorry, but at this moment, no, I can't share any life cycles with.
Okay, no problem at all. So thank you very much again for your interesting presentation and the case study of Soja de Portugal. So we'll move on now to our next session. So our next session will be high value products from food waste. And so if you have just joined us, I'll explain again. This is the second of 3 sessions for which the speakers were selected by an abstract competition, and awards will be given to the best 3 works of the overall conference. So I would like to invite Mr. Tom Machad to moderate this session. So before I do this, I would like to introduce Mr. Machad to you. He has a background in microbiology with a degree by the Catholic University in Portugal. He has significant experience in the valorization of food waste, including a number of publications and participation in international conferences. He is a project manager at LIPOR, where he develops research on the valorization of waste products for agriculture. He is also a founding member of the Smart Waste Portugal Young Professionals. So let's welcome again Mr. Machado. Telmo, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Juan, for introducing me to this conference. And I would like also to thank all the participants that joined us to hear about what young researchers are doing in Portugal so we can achieve a more circular economy. So this second session will be about high value products, as João said. But before we start this session, I would like to mention that you can submit your questions through the chat box for our presenters to respond to during the Q&A session. So without any further ado, I would like to welcome our first presenter, Diva Santos, with a presentation entitled From Carrot Byproducts to Carrot Flour Production Process and Flour Characterization. Diva has a master's degree in food biotechnology from the University of Aveiro, and she also has participated in various research projects from preservation to enhancement of foods and food production. Her main research areas are food chemistry, food development, sensory analysis, bioactive compounds, and functional food and food byproducts valorization. She is currently a PhD student at the School of Biotechnology of the Portuguese Catholic University on the Food Science and Technology and Nutrition doctoral program. This program focuses on the development of innovative, multifunctional, sustainable breakfast cereals products using fruit and vegetable byproducts as fiber ingredients to increase fiber content. A great way to start the day. So thank you very much, Diva, for your presentation. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much for introducing me. So my name is Diva. Hello, good morning, everyone. And my presentation is about byproducts valorization, namely carrot byproducts, and how we can go from carrot byproducts into carrot flour. And I will describe the production process and chemical characterization of this flour. And this work is actually being developed in the framework of my PhD project, which aims to create breakfast cereals products rich in fiber by valorizing agro-food byproducts. And this idea actually came through because of these new emerging diets that demonize carbohydrates. So they are creating opportunity for fiber ingredients. And we know that agro-food byproducts are rich in fiber. Also, fiber intake is very neglected. Both EFSA and FAO recommend a minimum daily amount of 25 grams of fiber intake, and the USA Department of Health and Human Services recommend even a higher amount. However, the actual intake of fiber is lower, is below these recommendations, and in Portugal, the average of fiber intake is 17 grams per day. And we know that a large number of deaths are caused by a diet low in fiber. And on the contrary, a diet that has a minimal daily amount of 25 grams per day reduces the risk of obesity, elevated waist-to-weight ratio, diabetes, and some gastrointestinal diseases. It also reduces coronary heart diseases, stroke, hypertension, reduces blood pressure, triacylglycerols, cholesterol, and inflammation, and some inflammation markers levels. It also reduces the risk for cancer and decreases mortality related to circulatory, digestive, and non-cardiovascular, non-cancer inflammatory diseases. And in Portugal, half of the population eats breakfast cereals products, especially the youngest. And so this, the breakfast cereals products can be a good strategy to increase the fiber intake. And these products, the breakfast cereals products, lacks in variety of fiber. We always found mainly 3 types of fiber, which is fiber from maize, oat, or wheat bran. And also they have a very low amount of fiber. So how can we use these byproducts and how can we introduce this fiber into the breakfast cereals products? First, we need to transform these byproducts into a flour. So then we can use the extrusion technique, which uses flours as ingredients to produce our breakfast cereals products. So the carrot flour production starts with our byproducts, which in this case were baby carrot byproducts, and we start by washing and sterilizing these byproducts. And then with a mechanical treatment, we separate the water from the pomace, and we collect the pomace and we put it to dry at a low temperature to protect our bioactive compounds. And then we take this dried pomace and we mill it so we can have our carrot flour. So it's a very simple and straightforward production process. And we saw that this carrot flour has a very low content in fat, as expected, 80% of protein and 52% of total dietary fiber, of which 36% of insoluble dietary fiber and 15% of soluble dietary fiber. It also has some sugars, mainly sucrose, but also glucose and fructose, which can also be advantageous because it can allow us to reduce the amount of added sugar into the breakfast cereals products. We also saw that this carrot flour has a good antioxidant activity measured with several methods, ABTS, CPPH, and ORAC. And this antioxidant activity is coming mainly from the phenolic compounds that this carrot flour has. Also, this carrot flour has a very good amount of vitamin E isomers, mainly the alpha tocopherol and the beta tocopherol, and also carotenoids. And mainly it's the alpha carotene, beta carotene, and lutein, as expected. So these preliminary results show us that actually the carrot flour can be used as a valuable ingredient because it's rich in fibers, so it can actually be used to produce these breakfast cereals products rich in fiber. And also, this flour is rich in bioactive compounds, namely tocopherols, carotenoids, and phenolic compounds that give the flour some bioactivities, namely the antioxidant activity. We also know that we face some challenges when creating these breakfast cereals products because several studies in literature show that when we increase the fiber content in extruded products, the expansion index decreases and the bulk density increases, which means that the texture quality may be compromised. Also, depending on the soluble dietary fiber content, it may improve or decrease the texture quality of breakfast cereals products. However, we can also see with these previous studies that there are several production variables that can be managed to overcome these detrimental effects that fiber can have. So this was all. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Diva, for your excellent presentation. I must remind you that you can put your questions on the chat box, and on the final presentation we'll have the Q&A, and Diva will have the opportunity to answer to all your questions. Thank you again.
Okay, thank you.
Now we'll be listening to another presentation by Olena Dorosh, entitled Vine Canes Valorization, the Next Step to Reach a Circular Economy in Grape Production. So Olena Dorosh obtained a master degree in biotechnology for sustainability from the Institute of Chemical and Biological Technology, António Xavier, from the Nova University of Lisbon. And she also has a bachelor in biochemistry from the Nova School of Science and Technology. Currently, she is working as a researcher with a master's student fellow in the project Biorefinery, not refinery, but Biorefinery at the Instituto Superior de Engenharia do Porto. She is also the author of 3 articles in international peer-reviewed journals, and her work is focused on the sustainable valorization of agriculture products. Olena, thank you very much for your presence, and the floor is yours.
Good morning. Thank you for your introduction, and I hope everyone is okay and enjoying the conference. So I will start by sharing the presentation. Okay. So today I will talk about the possible applications for vine canes and how we can valorize them and obtain other products. Why do we focus particularly on vine canes? Well, because grapes constitute one of the major fruit crops produced worldwide. And in order to ensure their production in terms of quality and quantity, vine canes need to be pruned. This generates approximately 1.75 tons of vine canes per hectare of vineyard that currently have no application. They are either incorporated into the soil or incinerated. Considering that these vine canes are a source of phenolic compounds, we can see here that it's a product that has potential, but currently is not valorized. So these phenolic compounds have antimicrobial, antioxidant, and anti-inflammatory potentialities, and could be applied in cosmetical, nutraceutical, food additive, or fuel industries. To obtain these bioactive compounds, first we need to extract them, and the most usual extraction methods are the conventional one, and we also have environmentally friendly extraction techniques that, of course, in the future are the best option. In our case, we performed a subcritical water extraction in Tinta Roriz, which is a Portuguese grape variety. The major advantage of subcritical water extraction is that it only uses water as a solvent, so we do not use any kind of organic solvent in this extraction. And these extracts were rich in phenolic compounds and also possessed a high antioxidant activity, of course, derived from this content in phenolic compounds. We also observed that they had the capacity of scavenging reactive oxygen species. Nevertheless, this capacity was way lower than the one presented by the positive controls. So we would need to use higher concentrations of our extract to reach the same results. Concerning the cell viability exposed to different concentrations of our extract, up to concentrations of 100 micrograms per milliliter, we saw no negative effect in the skin cell line fibroblasts. Therefore, we produced a gel formulation with the disappearance, as you can see here, and we characterized this gel. We divided the gel in 6 containers of 100 grams each, and 3 of them were kept at 25 degrees, which is the standard temperature here in Europe. And the other 3 were kept at 40 degrees for accelerated stability, which is to test the accelerated stability of the gel. From our results, we were able to conclude that the pH of the gel was compatible with the skin, and it was stable over the 30 days for both temperatures. It had a good adhesiveness for the skin, which is a very important factor because, of course, if we rub the gel into the skin, it has to adhere so it can be absorbed. In terms of its firmness, color, and shear stress, it wasn't that stable, especially for the formulation kept at 40 degrees. So this would be a point to improve in the future. The gel presented a real fluidificant or shear thinning behavior, which is which means that the viscosity decreased in function of the shear rate. This is also important because it means that when the gel is rubbed into the skin, it spreads and it doesn't stay on the same place. And it presented a thixotropic, it appeared as a thixotropic material, which is also good for a gel formulation because it means that after we imposing a structural change in the gel and taking away the force, it went back to its original state. So this is important because in the case of transportations, for instance, the gel may lose a little bit of its properties, but when it arrives to the final consumer, as it can go back to its original state, it always has the same appearance. Concerning the microbial content or microbial possible contaminations, the gel formulation was under the regulation. So as we can see, this is a product that has a lot of potential. Another possibility that we are testing at the moment is to use this extract into a biodiesel. So after the biodiesel is produced, it needs to have antioxidants in order to be stable until it reaches the final consumer. Currently are used artificial synthetic antioxidants. One example is the BHT, and we are testing the incorporation of our extract. As we can see here, the extract kept at 1,200 ppm of extract in the biodiesel and 1,500 ppm has an oxidative stability above 8 hours, which is the standard for the industry. We can see here also that that the synthetic BHT also has above 8 hours, and it has a similar behavior as our extract. So this is another possible application that could be really interesting for our extract. So in conclusion, we were able to find alternative applications for our for vine canes, and our extracts were incorporated into a gel formulation and into a biodiesel. It would be more interesting to apply it into a biodiesel because as we perform the extraction at really high temperatures to obtain these subcritical conditions, the final extract has a burned wood smell. So in fact, it would have no interference in the biodiesel, but it would be more complicated to incorporate into a product that we use in our skin. Thank you very much for your attention, and it's all.
Thank you so much, Elena, for your interesting presentation and the interesting use of the vineyards. I would like to welcome now the third presentation of this second session of our conference. It is my pleasure to introduce the next speaker, Helena Araújo Rodrigues, whose presentation title is a new valorization approach of porcine blood based on enzymatic hydrolysis and membrane technology, the biological potential of resultant hydrolate as a food ingredient. Helena Rodrigues' academic education includes a bachelor in biochemistry, a master in applied biochemistry and biotechnology field, both from the University of Minho. Her master thesis focused on the characterization of cetaceans microbiome, aiming to develop a health biomonitoring approach. Since 2018, Helena is a researcher at CBQF. She integrated the SERPA Flora project, aiming at characterizing SERPA POD cheese microflora and chemical markers to select promising microbial strains for the development of autochthonous starter cultures. Helena also has the opportunity to improve her internship skills during the participation in New Food Project, winning a prize of food valorization contest. Currently, she is a PhD student at the Escola Superior de Biotecnologia and I3S in the biotechnology doctoral program, working in food and health fields. Unfortunately, due to unforeseen circumstances, Helena could not be present today, and she sent us a video where she will present her, she will make her presentation. So I will ask Ines to show us the video that Helena sent for us.
Just I guess you cannot see the video now, right? Or
good morning. Yes, we can see it.
You can see the video? Can you confirm you can see the video? Sorry.
Yes, the sound is in.
Yeah. Okay.
Good morning. First, I would like to thank the opportunity to present my work, which has been developed in the context of Mob Food Project and focus on a new valorization approach of porcine blood based on enzymatic hydrolysis and membrane technology, and in the study of the biological potential of resultant hydrolysate as a food ingredient. Blood is one of the main meat industry byproducts with an interesting nutritional value and beneficial functional properties. But according to recent reports, only a small fraction is directed for human consumption, since the main products employing blood are related to pet food and fertilizer industries. New processing strategies can be the solution to increase the blood value, and in addition, the search for more sustainable protein sources also raises the importance to develop effective strategies to increase blood valorization in direction of human nutrition. So, in this context, the main aim of the present work was develop an innovative approach based on enzymatic hydrolysis and membrane technology for porcine blood provided by Primor Group, and also investigate the biological properties and potential of resultant fraction as food ingredients. Blood was cooked and enzymatically hydrolyzed, and resultant product was filtered and submitted to microfiltration. The resultant retentate was submitted to reverse osmosis and freeze-dried. Regarding the filtrate of microfiltration, it was submitted to nanofiltration, and the resultant retentate submitted to reverse osmosis and freeze-dried. Finally, the filtrate of nanofiltration was also submitted to a new nanofiltration step, and the resultant retentate also submitted to reverse osmosis and freeze-dried. Some biological properties of the three resultant fractions, namely retentates of microfiltration, retentates of nanofiltration, and filtrate of nanofiltration were investigated. Regarding total protein content, the results suggest a high protein content in all fractions. In the case of filtrate of nanofiltration, approximately to 65%, while in the other cases approximately to 90% on a dry basis. Regarding to the protein and peptide profile, the results suggest a similar profile in all hydrolysates, with a high concentration in this range here, and in the case of filtrate of nanofiltration, it had a greater concentration of lower molecular size peptides, as we can see here. Regarding the antioxidant capacity, filtrate of nanofiltration represented in orange showed higher antioxidant activity by both methods analyzed, with very interesting antioxidant capacity aligning with its peptide profile. And in the case of retentate of nanofiltration, represented in green, had also an increasing antioxidant potential, but lower than the filtrate of nanofiltration. Additionally, the antihypertensive activity was also tested, and the results suggest that in the case of filtrate of nanofiltration, only 28 micrograms per milliliter inhibit 50% of angiotensin converting enzyme, and it can be classified as an excellent antihypertensive activity, and it was a very interesting result. So, according to their biological potential, mainly the high protein content, an interesting protein and peptide profile, the hypothesis of retentate of microfiltration and retentate of nanofiltration being used in aquafeed aquaculture feed were raised, while in the case of filtrate of nanofiltration in the human food formulations as a functional ingredient was also raised, due to mainly the excellent antioxidant capacity and antihypertensive potential, but also the interesting protein content and peptide and protein profile. So the characterization of filtrate of nanofiltration was complemented. Regarding free amino acids, they were identified and quantified, being the most incident aspartic acid, glutamic acid, alanine, phenylalanine, and leucine, showing this fraction an interesting free amino acid profile. Also, mineral content was monitored with phosphorus, magnesium, calcium, sodium, and potassium as the most important minerals. Also, the antimicrobial potential was tested, but no antimicrobial effect was verified for the 7 pathogenic bacteria tested. Finally, we can conclude that the filtrate of nanofiltration possesses a very interesting biological properties, namely high protein content and interesting protein and peptide profile, excellent antioxidant capacity and antihypertensive potential, and also interesting free amino acid and mineral profiles. Overall, this approach corresponded to a new and effective way to produce a value-added blood hydrolysate that increases the economic value of blood to the human application, contributing to a circular economy approach. As future work, the prebiotic potential and peptide sequence will be also analyzed. And finally, I would like to thank all people and institutions involved in this work, especially in the mob food project. And any question, please ask us by email. And thank you very much for your attention.
I would like, although she is not present, I would like to thank Elena for presenting this video, which demonstrated her work in this field. So before moving to our next speaker, I would like to remind you that you can place your questions in the chat, and the presenters will answer them during the Q&A session. Our next presenter, Carla Dias, will be presenting us her research concerning yeast and microalgae mixed cultures to treat brewery effluents with contaminant lipid production. Contaminant lipid production. Just a small presentation. Carla Diaz has completed her master's degrees in biochemistry in the University of Coimbra, and she is engaged in a PhD in biosciences and biotechnology in Instituto Superior Técnico in Lisbon. During her research path, Carla has been focusing on the study of oleaginous yeast for biodiesel and other high-valued added products production. And more recently, she is working on the symbiotic interaction of yeast and microalgae. She is also the author of 9 research articles in peer-reviewed journals and several studies presented in national and international scientific conferences. Thank you, Carla, for your presence, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. I will share my screen. That's okay.
I believe, yes, now we are getting it.
Good morning and welcome you all. I'm going to present you my work about yeast and microalgae mixed cultures to treat brewery effluents with concomitant lipid production. So what is the brewery industry? It is a very important section of the economy of many countries. And actually beer is the 5th most consumed beverage in the world. And this number is impressive, as for each liter of beer produced, 3 to 10 liters of wastewater are generated. So this represents large volumes of brew wastewater that must be treated usually by municipal treatment plants, which represent large amounts of waste for the treatment plants, as well as high costs for the brewery companies. So considering all of this, the need to develop more efficient methods for brew wastewater treatment is eminent. So, as you know, in natural ecosystems, mixed culture are a rule. So why don't we, scientists, take advantage of the best fixture of each microorganism involved in a mixed culture to produce biomass and other valuable biocompounds while treating the effluent? And scientists have studied this area and selected the best partners for wastewater treatment and lipid production, yeasts and microalgae. Why? Because the first advantage is their complementary metabolisms, as yeasts are heterotrophic organisms and microalgae autotrophic organisms. The next advantage is related to the carbon dioxide and oxygen balance, as yeast produces carbon dioxide in their metabolism that can be used by microalgae in photosynthesis, and it is produced oxygen that can be used by the yeast in respiration. The next advantages are related with pH auto-adjustment, cell stress mitigation, and substance exchanges. And very importantly, it is important to choose strains that are able to produce lipids for biodiesel and other high valuable compounds, such as carotenoids, to make the wastewater process economically viable. So what we do in our work is that we collect from Central de Cervejas in Lisbon primary brew wastewater that is collected after preliminary screening to remove floating solids and preliminary sedimentation. The wastewater, and because we understood that the wastewater alone was had not enough carbon source to allow heterotrophic growth, we have to supplement it with a byproduct of the sugar industry, that is sugarcane molasses, that we collect from Sidul, a sugar company in the Lhandra, Lisbon. And with these two products, we perform our mixed cultures. With the yeast, Rhodosporidium thyroides, that is an oleaginous yeast, it produces lipids for biodiesel, and also produces 3 types of carotenoids, beta-carotene, toluene, and torbarrodine, that have a high commercial value. Also, we use Cetadermus obliquus, that is an oleaginous microalgae, and is widely used in wastewater treatment. And with this, we pretend to obtain a treated wastewater. We pretend to produce lipids for biodiesel and also carotenoids, but we have not quantified them yet. And in all our cultivations, we perform perform flow cytometry with two ends. The first one is that we were able to implement a technique that through flow cytometry we can understand and calculate the biomass of each of the microorganisms in the mixed culture. And we do this obtaining from flow cytometry the microorganisms proportions. And also we study cell stress of the two microorganisms in the mixed culture, studying enzymatic activity and membrane integrity. So what we did was a mixed culture of the two microorganisms in primary brew wastewater supplemented with 10 grams per liter of sugarcane molasses as carbon source and 2 grams per liter of urea in nitrogen source. And we also, because we want to compare the results of the mixed culture, we also performed the pure yeast and microalgae cultures. And as you can see in figure A, what we obtained was that in the pure culture, the yeast was not able to, grow. However, in the mixed culture, the yeast was able to attain 3.65 grams per liter of biomass in the first 24 hours. Also, in the mixed culture, what we observed was that, as it possible to observe in the dot plot obtained by flow cytometry, that the yeast represented more than 27% of the total cells of the mixed culture throughout most of the cultivation. Our conclusions for this was that in the mixed culture, the microalgae produce this oxygen, an extra supply of oxygen that can help the yeast develop better in the mixed culture. But our most probable conclusion is that in the primary brew wastewater there are inhibitors that may inhibit the yeast growth when in the pure culture, but in the mixed culture, the microalgae is able to metabolize these inhibitors and allow the yeast to grow. This has never been published in literature, these results. Also, when we observed the microalgae results, we saw that in the pure culture, the alga was able to grow, to attain in the first 26 hours, more than 4 grams per liter of biomass. On the contrary, in the mixed culture, the biomass produced was very low. On the contrary, what was observed for the yeast, that the mixed culture benefited the yeast for microalgae, the mixed culture did not benefit the microalgae. We also study lipid production, and we obtain higher lipid productivity for the mixed culture. And it for stimulate lipid production, it is important to obtain to use high carbon to nitrogen ratios. So we wanted to improve the lipid production of the mixed culture, and for this we improved the carbon to nitrogen ratio. I'm sorry, increasing the sugarcane molasses concentration. And we used 20, 40, and 100 grams per liter of sugarcane molasses, which allow us to obtain 11, 24, and 25 carbon to nitrogen ratios. And as you can observe, as we increased the sugarcane molasses, we were able to attain 30 grams per liter of biomass produced in the mixed culture. We also study lipid production, and as we increase the sugarcane's concentration, we are able to increase the lipid content in the mixed culture. And we obtained 75.8 milligrams per liter per hour of lipid productivity in the cultivation using 100 grams per liter of sugarcane molasses. It was a high value than the one obtained by Yin and Al in 2015, when they used a minimal medium supplemented with glucose. So it was a good result. So the conclusions of the work was that we used a waste and a byproduct of two industry as raw materials to co-cultivate yeast and microalgae for brewery wastewater treatment with concomitant lipid production. And we were able to demonstrate that using primary brewery wastewater supplemented with 100 grams of sugarcane molasses and urea, it can be used as a potential low-cost culture medium for lipid production. And with this approach, we want to contribute for a more sustainable and energy-saving primary brew wastewater treatment and a desirable, as much as possible, circular bioeconomy. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Carla, for bringing this interesting association, this symbiotic association between yeast and microalgae. We have now our fifth and last presentation of this second session. Please be reminded that after this presentation, we'll have a Q&A session followed by a short break. We also remind you that you can put all your questions in the chat box. Our next presenter is Sarah Quina. Her presentation has a title of Antioxidant Peptides Produced from Unexplored Marine Resources. And Sarah Quina has a master in health biochemistry and is currently a biotechnology PhD student at the Escola Superior de Biotecnologia, developing her work in the bioproducts and bioactives group at CBQF. She is studying extracts from marine sources such as algae and mussels, rich in bioactive peptides, with the goal of developing cosmetic ingredients with anti-aging and anti-inflammatory properties. She has worked in research projects in different areas such as marine biology, microbiology, immunology, and biotechnology. In the last 3 years, she has been working on the production and characterization of extracts from marine sources, and she is also an invited assistant in the curricular units of inorganic and general chemistry in the same school. In the Escola Superior de Saúde do Politécnico do Porto. She helped the supervision of a student in bachelor in aquatic sciences and also a bachelor student of the Erasmus program. So let's hear about your work, Sarah. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sarah Quina, as said. I'm a PhD student at Universidade Católica Portuguesa, and I'm working with marine species that can be used as a source of functional ingredients. And the work I bring here today focused on the antioxidant peptides produced from unexplored marine resources. For this work, the resources chosen were the mussel Mytilus galoprovincialis and the microalgae Chlorella vulgaris and Nanochloropsis oceanica. First of all, Mytilus galoprovincialis is a mussel that is highly consumed and appreciated in several countries. Mussel farming can be done with minimal greenhouse gas emissions and thus having low carbon footprint and few environmental impacts. However, since mussels are widely used in restaurants, there are few criteria for the mussels commercialization. So, before being delivered for sale, mussels that are broken are rejected, or the mussels with size out of the established criteria in the target market are also rejected. So, mussel commercialization is associated with waste generation. The microalgae are photosynthetic organisms that are easy to cultivate since they do not require cultivable land that can be used for other plantations. It makes them a more sustainable resource. The microalgae that we use in this work are produced in the company of Microalgae, in which the carbon dioxide generated in another industry is injected to microalgae growth tubes, transforming it in oxygen, which results in a decrease of carbon dioxide emissions. So the use of these three species may contribute to a sustainable development. Furthermore, all these species have interesting levels of protein, so we consider them a sustainable protein source. Due to this protein richness of these species, they are described as a source of bioactive peptides, which are inert when integrated inside proteins, becoming active when broken. So these species may represent a sustainable resources for the extraction of active ingredients that can be used in several industrial applications, such as pharmaceuticals, nutraceuticals, cosmetics, and food. Several bioactivities have been described in marine extracts, but in this work, we focus on the antioxidant potential, since it may be interesting to use as food and cosmetic ingredients. So, why do these antioxidant extracts have potential for these two industries? First, for cosmetic industry, they have interest due to their ability to reduce the production of radical oxygen species in our skin, or at least reduce the damage caused by them, which can be used to fight skin aging. Since there has been an increase in valorization for natural and sustainable cosmetic ingredients and formulations, the production of natural antioxidant extracts from these species may be an interesting approach for the development of new ingredients that can be in line with the cosmetic trends of a natural and a sustainable beauty. For food industry, antioxidant extracts may be interesting since they may be easily absorbed by the gastrointestinal tract. They can be used to develop functional food with benefits for human health. They can also be used as food preservatives, and at last, these extracts may contribute to a sustainable development. So therefore, this work aims to valorize muscle meat waste and microalgae by creating antioxidant extracts with potential as active ingredients for food and cosmetic industry. So briefly, talking about the methodology used, the chlorella extract was produced by an acid hydrolysis using a food-grade acid, followed by an enzymatic hydrolysis with a cellulase and a subtilisine. Nanochloropsis extract was produced only by enzymatic hydrolysis using the same enzymes, but different conditions. In both cases, the cellulase was important to weaken the microalgae cellular wall, which help us to release more compounds from the cells, while the protease was used to help in the release of more proteins and also to break them into smaller peptides. For muscle extracts production, first the meat from discarded muscles were minced until homogenized and then submitted to an enzymatic hydrolysis. Two extracts were produced, one using a subtilisine protease and other with a corylase. Finally, from all the extracts, the soluble fractions were freeze-dried for further analysis. So, analyzing all the results, we saw that in terms of protein content, Nanochloropsis extract showed the lower values, with all the other extracts having similar content, which is a really interesting content. For the antioxidant activity, we used oxygen radical absorbance capacity assay and ABTS radical scavenging assay. For the ABTS, chlorella showed a value slightly higher than the other extracts. However, it was not statistically significant. The most interesting antioxidant results were obtained in the ORAC assay, in which chlorella and the muscle produced with subtilisine stood out, showing higher levels, statistically significant. So chlorella vulgaris and muscle produced with subtilisine showed higher potential to be used as functional ingredients. So, in conclusion, we saw that using an enzymatic hydrolysis of microalgae and discarded mussels, we can produce antioxidant extracts useful to be used as natural and sustainable ingredients, both for food and cosmetic industries, which can contribute to valorize world waste in a circular economy context. So, thank you all for the attention. I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for this presentation, joining microalgae and mussels. It's something really, really interesting. And And now we will move on to our Q&A session, but first let me thank to all the presenters that brought us this amazing ways of turning waste into valued products. If anyone has any other questions, please leave them in the chat box. We will now select some of the questions that already have been posted. Let me just check the first questions. Okay, so for Diva, we have a question from Daniela. Firstly, do you use the whole carrot or just the peels or other byproducts? And she has a second question. Do you believe that a breakfast cereal using these flours would be well accepted by consumers, in particular youngsters?
Yes, they are very good questions. Yes, regarding the byproducts, in this case, they are baby carrots, and we use the whole carrots. They are not peeled, so there is not that byproducts. The whole carrot are the byproduct when they are not in compliance with the requirements for selling, such as wrong shape or wrong size. Or simply when their shelf life is over and they were not sold. So the whole baby carrot is the byproduct. About the sensory quality of these breakfast cereals products, we know that that will be a challenge because of the high fiber content. And especially because of the texture quality. However, we believe that it's possible to achieve a balance between the typical extruded breakfast cereals products that are in the market and the typically rich in fiber breakfast cereals products that are in the market. Because using these vegetable byproducts, we have a good balance and a good ratio of insoluble dietary fiber and soluble dietary fiber. And because we have a higher soluble dietary fiber content, you can have a better texture comparing with those existing rich in fiber breakfast cereals products that are in the market. So, but we know that we probably need to compromise, and we probably will not get that typically good texture that consumer is used to in the current breakfast cereals products in the market. That will be a challenge, yes, and we are aware of that.
But it's not just the fiber content, right? You also have the bioactive compounds that could manage to help to sell this idea.
Yes, we know that several consumer studies show that the consumer palate can be educated and trained, especially when consumer is aware of the health benefits of a product and is aware that the beneficials of fiber, for instance, and the other active compounds that we will have in these products. A consumer is willing to be trained and to get used to this new texture and this new taste. So yes, that is also an advantage. Yes.
Thank you, Diva.
Thank you. And thank you for the questions.
I don't know if I will post any more questions, but I will follow the chat to check it. Okay. So the next question is for Elena and also from Daniela. And she is asking if currently the technology you applied for the extraction, the subcritical water extraction, is viable for the production of high amounts of your extract. So do you think this could be scaled up?
First, thank you for the kind words that everybody said and the questions. When we perform the extractions, we only use 40 grams of vine canes and 400 milliliters of water. So that's very small. But in fact, this kind of extraction can be upscaled. So if you use it in industry, you could have a larger reactor, and therefore you could also use larger quantities of vine canes. That of course would be needed because as we saw every year, we have a lot of this waste that currently has no use. I hope I answered the question.
I believe so. If don't, Daniela, please subject another question. I have another question to Diva. The idea of using carrots byproducts was built on what statistical basis, meaning what harmful impact does carrots byproduct causes? So why did you choose this? Is this a big problem in the industry? How do you see it?
We actually found Portuguese companies that are willing to valorize their byproducts, and in this case, there's a byproduct Portuguese company that have this problem, and they are willing to valorize their byproducts, and that's why we choose these byproducts, because we have we have this byproduct available. I also work with other byproducts from another company. We also using apple byproducts and these carrot byproducts, and the reason is the byproducts that we have available for the work, and the companies that are really willing to valorize their byproducts. But in general, the fruit and vegetable byproducts are the most represent the higher percentage of byproducts in the food industry. FAO estimates around 20% of fruit and vegetables that are produced are lost until up to the retail level. So yes, and that's it. I hope I have answered.
Yes, and also the aim of circular economy is to increase the value of the products. If we use these products just for compost and just for feeding animals, it's not a very high value product. So these projects will help to increase the value of these materials.
Yes, and in this case, they have exactly what I wanted with it, which is fiber, high fiber content. So it's perfect.
Thank you, Diva.
Thank you.
I believe we also have another question for Olena. Could you clarify what would be expected from environmental benefits? Are currently vine trains a problem, or are the current benchmark gels the problem? This is a question from Guilherme Ascensão.
So vine canes are not really a problem, but they sometimes bring some constraints to the farmers, because they don't know what to do with the high amounts of vine canes that they end up producing. And as I said, they sometimes incorporate it into the soil, so they can act as a fertilizer, but they cannot incorporate all of the content of vine canes, because of course that they can bring some advantages to the soil. But when we use fertilizers, we need to address the needs of the soil, and not always the vine canes address those needs. So actually, sometimes they don't know what to do with the vine canes, and we also have a partnership with the SOGRAP, and that's why this, so they are also interested in finding another alternative, and that's how this study began. Regarding the gels, correct, yes, it does. There's also no real problem with the gels, with the production, but as Sarah talked in her presentation, we produce reactive oxygen species, and they lead to the aging, and they lead to the aged appearance of the skin. So we need to neutralize these reactive oxygen species, and one way is by applying antioxidants to the skin. Because even though we have natural antioxidants in our body, sometimes they are not, so there's not an equilibrium. We produce more reactive oxygen species that our body can neutralize. And that's why we use antioxidants in cream formulations that currently are synthetic antioxidants. So this could be a good way of valorizing our waste, right? And we would not need to produce synthetic antioxidants. So yeah, that's why we thought about this application.
Thank you, Elena. We also have a question for Carla. Let me just check. I believe it's from Diogo Proença. How the interaction with microalgae and yeast affects the beer production? Carla, I believe your microphone is muted. It's still muted. Ines, could you please try to yeah, thank you.
Okay,
it's
okay. Can you repeat the question, please?
Sorry, the question is from Diogo Proença. How the interaction with microalgae and yeast affects the beer production?
The interaction is not at the beer process. It's afterwards. We pretend to treat the brew wastewater. So there's nothing to do with beer. It's only the wastewater that is produced in the beer production that we pretend to treat and to use as a medium to grow our mixed cultures. And we pretend to produce lipids and carotenoids and to treat the wastewater. I don't know if I answered the question.
Yes, I believe so. But I also have a question, and this symbiotic association, does it occurs naturally, or did you find that adding this microalgae would make this this interaction with the yeast?
In natural environments, the different symbiotic occurs. In this case, we were using two microorganisms that we can use the best feature of each of the microorganisms and for our benefit. And we saw literature in different combinations, and in fact this combination is the best because although bacteria has a high growth rate, they are not good producers and accumulators of lipids. So in fact, yeasts for that are better, and microalgae as an autotrophic organism is the best one to combine with another heterotrophic. So I think
Yes, thank you. I would like to ask another question. Because you stated that you used glucose and urea as a carbon nitrogen base. Sorry?
No, we used sugarcane molasses as a carbon source.
And for the nitrogen source, you used
urea. Yes.
Urea. So did you thought about using another wastewater treatment byproduct to address this challenge, to substitute the urea with another nitrogen source?
We tested 3 nitrogen sources, yeast extract, urea, and ammonium sulfate. And we did this, this was the one of the first things that we did in my PhD project, but only for the yeast. What we observed was that although high biomass and lipid production was obtained with yeast extract, higher lipid content was obtained with urea. For us, it is important to follow the process which give us the higher quantity of carotenoids, because they are a really expensive product. And we want to make the process as much as possible economically viable. And also, yeast extract is a very expensive nitrogen source, and we want to make the process as low cost as possible. So because of these two, we choose our year because of this. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Carla. Sarah, we did not forget about you, but I also have a question for you. How do you see this, your work contributing for a circular bioeconomy? Let's state that.
Okay, honestly, we are already working on that. I did not present because time was so short, but we have a focus like Olena. I'm going to incorporate these extracts as additive ingredients for cosmetic formulations. So I'm directing it really right now for cosmetic industry.
So cosmetic industry also consumes a lot of materials, a lot of bioactive compounds that are difficult to extract. So that's your contribution to circular economy, reducing the extraction of materials or reducing the cost of extraction.
Yes, because we are using these discarded mussels and also the microalgae that have a production method really interesting bio microalgae. We are working with them also. So we are using these sustainable species to create natural ingredients and sustainable ingredients, and so create this circular economy. Because as Alina said, cosmetic industry is also looking for new natural products, and everything we have right now is synthetic. So if we can incorporate these natural and sustainable ingredients, it would be really interesting for cosmetic industry. That is an industry that generates millions of euros. So I guess it's really an interesting approach for this kind of extracts.
Another thing that I would like to highlight, that you're only using local products, national products, because the microalgae are produced in Portugal. And the mussels are also collected, not produced, but collected in Portugal. So you are really contributing to a circular economy and also to a local national economy. So thank you, Sarah, for your answers. I would like to ask a final question to Olena that came from Paula Placencia. And her question is, did you incorporate your vine cane extracts directly in your cream formulation as an additive?
Yes.
Additive, sorry.
So after we obtained the extract, the only thing that we did was a filtration, because of course we had the components from the milled vine canes. And then, yes, we incorporated directly on the cream formulation, and the other cosmetic ingredients were the standard ones used by the industry. Because, in fact, when we buy most of the cosmetic formulations, what we are paying, or the difference that we are paying, the gap in the value, are the bioactive compounds present, because the other components are standard ones used in the industry. And in our case, we used, I think it was 45% of water, 45% of extract, and then glycerin, methylparaben, and carbopol, that were the ingredients necessary to have the appearance of the gel and, yeah, the final formulation.
Thank you, Olena. We still have time for one last question that came from Mariana Camosa. She hopes that these projects are already in plan for practical application. Could you elaborate about it, if possible? I believe Maria is asking if how do you feel about your projects? They are close to the to the scale-up version, or do you still have to do a lot of work? I leave this question for all of you, for the first lady that wants to answer.
In my case, this is in my PhD project, which is in a very early stage, but yes, I hope this product at the end will be promising and and it could be in the market. And for that, we will need to partnership with some company that sees the value of the product and want to the product for to selling, right? So yes, it's a very early stage. I just finished the carrot flour production, so, and characterization, and the next step is starting anytime now.
It's important to notice that you can also do that. You can also do the next step and pass to the production of these flowers.
Yes, that's it. Short. Yes.
Something difficult, but very interesting. So if no one wants to add anything more, we will finish this session, and I will pass I will pass the voice to João. But first, let me thank you to all of you that presented this fantastic presentations and these fantastic products that I hope they will be on the market in the shortest time possible. So thank you very much once again, and let's pass the voice to João.
Thank you very much, Telmo, and the speakers for this very intense and insightful session. It was really interesting. So now we will have a short break, and after that we will continue with the rest of the sessions. So the following session will be our last on the topic from man-made problems to circular solutions. And the session will be moderated by Dr. Muriel Eaton. For now, we will have the break and we'll be back to you by 12:05. So stay with us. So welcome back. I hope you had the chance to grab a coffee or stretch your legs. We will return now with a session on the topic from man-made problems to circular solution. So in case you have just joined us, this is the last of 3 sessions for which the speakers were selected by an abstract competition. Awards will be given to the best 3 works. I would like to invite Dr. Muriel Eaton to moderate this session, and I'll introduce Dr. Eaton to you. So she has a background in environmental engineering with a degree by University of Coimbra and a master's in management and environmental technology from the same university. She has a PhD in mechanical engineering, sustainable technology and building from Coventry University. She is the head of R&D unit at ISQ, where she coordinates different projects concerning circular economy. She is also a member of SWYP, where she co-coordinates the research and innovation program. So let's welcome again Dr. Eaton. Muriel, the floor is yours.
Hello, thank you, João. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Hope you are enjoying the conference as much as we are and taking out useful information for your research. We will now start the last session, from man-made problems to circular solutions. It includes 4 presentations by 4 brilliant researchers undertaking research at Portuguese institutions. Each presenter will be given 7 minutes to present their work, and I will kindly let you know when there is 1 minute left. I would also like to remind you that you can submit your questions through our chat to presenters to respond later to our Q&A questions sessions. Kindly address your questions directly to the presenter. It will make it easier for us then to select. Okay then, so let's start with our first presentation, entitled Nano Chloropsis oceanica Culture Medium Formulation Using Alloys from Different Industries. It will be presented by Joana Fonseca. Joana is a research fellow at all microalgae since 2020. She holds a degree in biology from the University of Aveiro and finished her master degree in marine biology in 2019 at the same institution. In the last few years, research interests were related to climate change impacts at early life stages of bivalves and gastropods, which allowed the publication of 2 scientific papers at international scientific journals, 7 posters, and 1 oral presentation. Quina recently joined Microalgae Production to expertise to optimize their use and aquafeed products. Quina, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, as well.
And now, and now.
No, present remote.
Okay. So I will start. Good morning, everyone. Today I will show the results of a study related with Nanochloropsis oceanica, culture medium formulation using eluates from different industries. This presentation will be divided in 3 parts. The first one is related with the relation between wastewater and microalgae production. The second one will be focused in the experimental assays, and I will finish with the main conclusions. So since industrial revolution that greenhouse gases has increased in the atmosphere, besides that, the wastewater and organic waste from human activities has increased these gases like CO2 and can have huge environmental impact when released without treatment. But why? The wastewater and organic waste are composed by several nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus. And when released for aquatic ecosystems, they promote algae bloom. And when we have too much algae, the sunlight is blocked and consequently occurs the oxygen depletion and loss of food and habitat. So this is the problem. There are many solutions like wastewater treatments before discharge. However, we obtain the clean water, but this process have high operation costs and huge environmental impacts. There are another options like microalgae production, that is a sustainable process, and this is maybe a possible solution. But why microalgae? Microalgae are microscopic algae present in fresh water in marine ecosystems, and they have a high economical value because they can be applied in biofuels, medicinal and cosmetic products, as well as in food and feed ingredients. They use CO2 as a source of carbon, sunlight and nutrients, so microalgae production is considered to be a sustainable process because they use the CO2 present in the atmosphere and do not compete for arable land like the superior plants. In the context of Algae project, it was evaluated the use of wastewaters from two industries, Lipor and Narciso Dias, to produce Nanochloropsis oceanica that are marine microalgae. They are important because they are rich in polyunsaturated fatty acids and other compounds that are important to apply in nutritional and animal feed supplements. All the trials were executed at R&D unit of Al Microalgae, that is a company of Pataias, Portugal. So to evaluate the growth and productivity of Nanochloropsis oceanica at a lab scale, indoor, we exposed microalgae to 4 different ratios between nitrogen and phosphates. To do that, we measured the total nitrogen and phosphates of both eluates, and mixing the eluates of Lipor and Narciso Dias, we achieved these 2 different ratios. As control, we used a literature-based medium, and during the trials, we estimate the dry weight. This is the general characterization of both wastewaters. As we can see, both of them are rich in nitrogen, and Narciso Dias has higher total nitrogen concentration in phosphates than Lipor, and the main source of nitrogen in Lipor is ammonia. The results show that microalgae grown with the ratio 25 achieved a maximum productivity and higher dry weight, similar to the control, and significantly higher than the ratio 35. So we decided to continue the study with the best organic medium with the ratio 25. This time we tested 3 different concentrations of the initial nitrogen concentrations, 2, 4, and 6 millimolar, and the results show that microalgae grown with the 6 millimolar concentrations promote high productivity when compared with the other treatments. To validate these results, we have made the last trial, but this time outdoor at the pilot scale. For that, we used flat panels, and the results show that the total biomass achieved by the microalgae grown with the wastewater medium, with the ratio 25 and 6 millimolar, promote a similar production of total biomass comparing with the control. Besides that, no significant difference were found between the maximum productivities between the 2 treatments. In the end, we can saw that almost total nitrogen was consumed, so it is possible to treat and use the wastewater to produce microalgae, developing organic biomass. To conclude, it is possible use the wastewater to produce microalgae at a pilot scale, so we can obtain the clean water. At the same time, we obtain an organic product that has a high economical value, and at the same time, we reduce the cost of operation and avoid the use of natural resource to produce these products. In the end, we will close the economy circle and contribute to climate change mitigation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joanna. Just on time, actually, 1 minute was still left. So very well done. Thank you very much as well for your useful, very interesting and insightful presentation. Just a quick reminder, you can still submit your questions in our chat, and we will discuss them at the end of in our Q&A session. Okay then, so let's move on to our next presenter, João Carvalheiras. He will be presenting work entitled as Lead Removal from Aqueous Solutions Using Red Mud-Based Algae-Activated Foams. João is currently a PhD student in Material Science and Engineering, focused on waste recycling at the Department of Materials and Ceramic Engineering in Aveiro, Aveiro Institute of Materials. He holds a master's degree in Materials Engineering since 2016. His current research interest is the synthesis of geopolymers and alkali-activated materials for multifunctional application, waste valorization, especially of red mud and fly ash-based products. He has 20 paper publication, and his H index in Scopus is currently of 9. João, is yours.
Thank you so much. I'm sharing my screen now, right?
Yes. Maybe you could present more exactly. Perfect. Thank you, João.
Okay. So, hello everyone. I'm João Carvalheiras. I'm a PhD student from CISECO, University of Aveiro, and I'll present a work that will feature in my PhD thesis, focus on lead removal from aqueous solutions using red mud-based alkali-activated foams. So just a quick reminder that the mining industry has a big environmental impact. And the aim of my PhD thesis is mainly focused on water pollution, as the mining industry uses tons of water resources and produces acid mine drainage that contains a high amount of heavy metal and low pH value. On the other hand, we have a specific mining industry, alumina and aluminium industry, that produces a highly alkaline waste called red mud. This waste comes from the Weir process, where bauxite, the raw material, is processed and digested in sodium hydroxide, where red mud is formed in a ratio 1:1. This means that for each year, for every 150 megatons of alumina produced, we produce the same amount in red mud. This red mud is then being stockpiled, resulting in gigatons of red mud stored with no application. So to address both of these problems, we aim to use red mud to synthesize alkali-activated materials that usually are composed by silicon, aluminum, and sodium, but also can contain some iron. We want to enhance the specific surface area of those materials, then use them to treat acid mine drainage and evaluate the reuse of the alkali-activated materials after acid treatment. So what we did, we start with powder characterization. We characterize the red mud and metakaolin. As we can see, it's mainly composed by iron, alumina, and has some sodium in its composition. This sodium is what doesn't allow us to use red mud for other kinds of materials, like concrete, for instance. And metakaolin, like I said, is a standard material for alkali-activated materials production that is basically alumina and silicon. We can see the big difference between metakaolin and red mud is that metakaolin seems to be much more amorphous. We can see the AMP between 20 and 30 degrees, which means that probably metakaolin is more reactive to produce this kind of materials. Nevertheless, we used a mixture of metakaolin and red mud to perform the alkali activation. We produce our alkali activation foams, and because we want to study the pH effect, we perform in this study a neutralized step to remove some sodium content. We can see in the XRD patterns that the material is basically the same after a neutralization process. Some minor phases with sodium content that disappear. So afterwards, we studied the pH. Like I said, we started on a pH around 2. That is typically the pH of acid mine drainage, and we raised the pH and up to 5, and we can see big differences. When we started with a pH around 2, we see that the removal efficiency is quite low, lower than 10%. However, when we go up to pH values around 5, we have a removal efficiency around 100%. Other thing that we study in our report was concentration of lead in this case, and so we used concentrations around from 100 parts per million up to 600 parts per million, and we can see that as a negative effect on the removal efficiency. However, we can see that we have an increase on the uptake. This means milligrams of lead absorbed by grams of alkali activated material. This is a good way to assess the saturation effect. What does that mean is that probably on the samples that we where the initial concentration was around 600 parts per million, the equilibrium time needs to be higher. On this specific study, we used only 6 hours of equilibrium time, and we can see with other studies that are reported in literature that people tend to use higher times. For instance, we can see that some studies have higher or close uptake. However, they use 10 times more time or 20 times more time. So in the future, what we want to do is to treat different heavy metals, because this is only for lead now. We want to try zinc, we want to try lithium, copper, etc. We want to enhance our absorption capacity. We want always higher uptake. We want always 100% of removal efficiency. And of course, we want to pass from synthetic wastewater, in this case, to real water that is the acid mine drainage. And of course, in the end, we want to close the cycle and to try to reuse our alkali activated materials once again. And thank you all for your time and your attention. I'm open for questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, João. Very interesting. And I'm sure we will have some discussion later in a couple of minutes. So feel free, please, to post not just questions, but maybe some comments as well. I'm sure our researchers will appreciate your comments so they can improve their research. So please feel free to leave your messages in our chat so we can discuss them later in a couple of minutes. Okay, then, thanks, João. Let's move on to our third presentation. Let's welcome Pedro Farias. He will be presenting bioleaching of mining residues using highly resistant bacterial strains. Pedro Faria is currently a PhD student at the University of Coimbra and taking research in the field of environmental microbiology. Since finishing his master thesis in biochemistry, he has been working in the field of microbiology, taking interest in determining bacterial diversity in multiple environments, identifying metal resistance in environmental bacteria, and characterizing the resistance mechanism. His interests for challenges enabled him to conduct research and undertake his currently his PhD. The field of microbiology still has many unknowns, and he's thrilled to have the opportunity to unveil some of them. Thank you, sorry, Pedro. Let's start. The floor is yours.
Thank you for the introduction. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Share. Okay, how about now?
Yes.
Okay, great. And you hear me well? Okay, so, well, good morning to you all. Well, my name is Pedro Frias. I'm here as a PhD student from the University of Coimbra to present my work in this first edition of Smart Waste Portugal, Young Professionals. And my work is entitled Bioleaching of Mining Residues using Highly Resistant Bacterial Strains. So, mining residues generate usually a lot of secondary sources. These secondary sources are comprised of all the residues that are a product of an industrial mining or industrial activity that still contain valuable sources of interest to the industry and society. Usually these secondary sources, as you can see from the, generate a lot of waste, and they can be transformed in potential next sources of products. These mining secondary sources are highly concentrated on non-target metals, which are all the elements that are not extracted in the mining process. This environment usually includes a lot of organisms that are able to grow and are affected by the concentration of toxic elements that are in higher concentration in this environments, like, for example, platinum, cadmium, tellurium, and these affect the function of organisms, increasing their by exerting toxicity, but lead to the appearance of resistance and other traits that generate interest in these organisms. Some of these organisms will display leaching abilities due to the metabolic functions that sometimes require some of these elements that are in the environment. So for this work, the objective was to evaluate the ability of bacterial strains isolated from mining tailings to leachate mining residues, enriching high-valued metals. For such, we first selected two substrates from two different mining industries. Substrate A is a substrate that's resulted from industrial process that enriched it in, it's a not so common substrate because it's subjected to multiple treatments, so it's enriched mostly in iron, zinc, bismuth, silver, tellurium, aluminum, and so forth. As for substrate B is a direct product of a mine tailing, so it's enriching more common elements like salts, including potassium, sodium, magnesium, and some metals like copper and zinc. So then we move on to test some bacteria in the presence of these different sediments at different conditions, and testing different densities of these substrates in the presence of some media in which the bacteria were able to grow. We observed that two bacteria demonstrated the ability to grow in up to 2 or 20 grams per liter of sediment. So Bacillus and the Afrobacter were the bacteria selected for the work. They were tested in 2 different conditions, an acidic and a basic condition. And the first step was to evaluate the colonization of the substrate tested. So in the middle, we have the substrate, then Bacillus is observed as colonizer of the substrate, as well as the Afrobacter. So the bacteria were successful at trying to colonize and grow in these substrates. Moving on to leaching, these results were obtained by ICP-MS, and I present here at least 50 to 70% of the elements that were originally present in the sediments. So there was a lot of elements that were able to be leached at higher or lower concentrations. So the first result was for substrate A, which is the industrial substrate. And in this substrate, the organism, the Afrobacter, was able to leachate some elements such as uranium and cobalt at acidic pHs, and later on at 15 days in basic condition was able to leachate some other elements like gallium, barium, and zinc, also at very high leaching percentages. The other bacteria, Bacillus, had a different profile, more or less, in terms of concentration of leaching and the elements leached and the times they were leached. Uranium was also one of the elements that was highly leached in a high concentration, as well as chromium and platinum at low pH. And for a basic pH, magnesium and chromium are the elements with higher leaching. And we can see from the results of these both strains that time is a very important is a very important factor in bleaching of different elements. So for the different substrate, which is the more common one, we also see that it is colonizable by both bacteria, one more than the other. And after this demonstration, we went to see what were the leaching elements produced by the bacteria tested in this substrate. So the Afrobacter was able to leach in both acidic and basic conditions the same elements, gold and uranium, at high concentration of at high percentage of leaching at an acidic pH, and at a lower concentration in basic pH, but the profile is basically the same. Moving on to Bacillus, this was a wider variety of elements were able to be leached, and these were at the acidic pH, gold, tellurium, uranium, and lithium, with increasing amounts over time. And at the basic pH, we also saw phosphorus and tellurium at a higher concentration, appearing as a product of this organism leaching. All these results are presented against the control without bacteria. So this is an absolute biotic process. So in conclusion, we see that each bacteria tested successfully colonizes substrate tested, and the leaching is a process that is bacteria time and substrate dependent. So higher leaching was observed for substrate with higher abundance of toxic elements, substrate A, provided by an industrial process substrate. And on average, the organism, the Afrobacter, was able to leach in higher amounts than Bacillus in the same conditions. So to integrate this in the concept of a circular economy, we can see that environmental bacteria with leaching abilities may be used in combination with other mining techniques to make better usage of secondary mining sources. So I'd like to thank you all. Thank all my group, Professor Paul, my supervisor, my hosting institutions on all the funding, and all of you for attending and listening to me. And I welcome any questions that you have. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Pedro, for your excellent presentation. Yes, we need some questions as well and comments. Feel free to post. Okay, then let's move at last but not least. Let's welcome our last presenter, Mr. Amir Golipur. I hope I'm spelling it properly. Who's, yeah?
Yeah.
Golipur, who will be presenting can the use of reed bed technology in WWTP for sludge dewatering promote circular economy in smart cities? Amir is a PhD candidate in environmental engineering at ISA, Universidade de Lisboa, ISA. The PhD work plan has been granted by MIT Portugal program and the area of sustainable cities. He holds a master degree in water and wastewater engineering and a bachelor degree in civil engineering. He has already published 3 indexed papers, also several papers in Iranian journals, and attended several national and international conferences, as well as presentation. He does present 6 years of experience in dealing with nature-based solutions for wastewater treatment and reuse, including teaching and constructed wetland design and operation experience in Iran. He founded the TIT startup company in Iran, which provides green solution and services for wastewater management. Amir, excellent CV. Floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm sharing my presentation, and can you confirm if you see that?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, thank you. I'm Amir Golipur, and thank you for your introduction. I'm here to present a part of my PhD study, which is about reed bed technology and the dewatering of sludge, and the relationship of this with the circular economy in the smart cities. It's good to have a bird view of the study. Firstly, all we know that we have a daily consumption of water in cities. Then after we produce wastewater and send it to the treatment plant through our networks. There we have 2 phases to deal with this wastewater. We have liquid phase and the solid phase, which is the thing that I'm going to talk about. Of the total amount of wastewater is going to the treatment plant, between 1 to 5% is solid, enriched in organic and inorganic materials. So it's a valuable resource. Mainly, we have 2 approaches to deal with this solid. We can either use conventional technologies like filter bed presses, as you see on the right side, and we also have nature-based solutions or green technologies like sludge treatment reed beds, which is my PhD study. As you see in the reed bed technology, we have a media with natural covers, stones and sands, which is planted with reeds. On the top, we fed the sludge. The liquid part is going out on the bottom, and the biosolid will remain on the top. If we put into comparison these 2 technologies, mainly nature-based solutions and conventional technologies in different criteria, as you see in the green contours, as you see, most the nature-based solutions are in a better condition in terms of cost, energy consumption, even though the impact on global warming potential, they are neutral and somehow like a sink for carbon production, and the lifespan of these technologies are high, but the conventional technologies are low. All we are aware of the previous approach, linear economy. We have to quit and move to the circular economy, but we have to pay attention that if we use gray infrastructures like conventional technologies, it is not able to maintain the circular economy like what we have in filter bed presses. The final product is not of the good quality to maintain and to create a loop of circular economy in the smart cities.
We did a review, extensive review on the literature review of this technology, STRB, in three most databases which are well known. We found some hits, and then we selected the relevant studies through reading the whole pages and papers. We found 68 relevant studies, 1990s. 61 studies were about STRBs, and 3 novelties we found within these 30 years of studies. We distributed the studies origin all around the world. As you see, we have a lot of studies in Europe and some studies in China, but unfortunately, I couldn't find any study in Portugal. So seems that this topic is more some countries with innovation, so it means that we can also apply this in Europe more. If you put the number of publications into years of publication, you see the attentions are more on the technology in the past decade with more specific concepts, and in the red line you see the more novel works. The result of the meta-analysis will equip us to design and to operate the system in Mediterranean region, for example, because one of the criteria is the sludge loading rate. If you want to apply the system in Mediterranean region, you should know how much sludge should be fed over the reed bed. So we found 85 kilogram dry matter should be fed over 1 square meter per year. Which has to be followed with some criteria, means like we need to send 3 loads in 3 days, in 25 days, with final resting of 4 months. Then at the end, you have a final dry matter of 58% dry, which is a biofertilizer. We did this climate categorization for other climate conditions like temperate, Mediterranean, arid and tropical, and polar, as you see here. And the question of this paper, it was, can the use of reed bed technology in wastewater treatment plant for sludge dewatering promote circular economy in smart cities? The message is yes, yes. Why? Because according to the literature, it says it's safe to reuse, is kind of a soil conditioner, biofertilizer, is easily can be integrated in smart cities and operated easily in any climate condition, mitigate global warming, and will contribute to resource recovery, provide habitat for wildlife, and promote biodiversity. We have reed-based technology to reduce some problems like air pollutions in cities. And finally, but not least, the green message is let's quit gray infrastructure and move to the greenest infrastructure to save the environment, to save the world, and to save the economy. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Amir, for your presentation. Okay, then. Let's then start our Q&A session. I hope you enjoyed all these presentations. Okay, let me quickly have a look at our chat. We could start with the first question from Guilherme Ascenso. He's also a member of SWYP. And the question is directed to João. And he asks, well, he first starts by of course, complimenting your project. And he asks, can you comment on lead mobility, cyclical performance of alkali activated beds, and lead recovery processes?
Thank you. First, I want to thank Guilherme for the kind words and for the question itself. That's a really good question. I don't know if I can address all of those questions. I will try at least regarding lead mobility, because I didn't went that far on this study. But what I can say is that we should have at least two processes: ion exchanges for lead adsorption and physical adsorption. What we can do to try to secure or to contain the lead in our material is to coat the surface of our material, and that should be enough to secure lead, because your polymers are quite good immobilization material, similar to concrete, for instance. And the cyclical performance of our beads. In this study, I didn't use beads. I used bulk material, a millimetric parallelepipedal kind of shape, millimeter size. We want to go that far. We want to do smaller beads, and we want to use it in cyclic columns. And it should have a really good regeneration process. This means that we should be able to use our geopolymer over and over again, at least for a few times. I would say at least 5 times it should be possible. I can say that it will be organic materials. I can say over and over again, but because this is inorganic compounds, lead, and we want to try zinc and other kinds of stuffs, I cannot say that. But at least a finite amount it should be possible. It may be possible if we use acid conditions to try to extract lead and regenerate our sample with that, and then we can have a clean water now contaminated with lead, but then we can use other types of processes to precipitate that lead and to be able to recover our lead. So meaning that the regeneration process and the cyclic performance of our samples should be side by side with lead recovery, I would say. I don't know if I were able to.
João, thank you for the answer.
Thank you. Thank you very much, João. I will then address my next question to Joanna, namely asking her what could be done to increase the rate use of eluates from industry.
Increase what? Sorry.
Eluates from industry. How can you increase them in industry?
I think these experiments were good to show that it's possible to use them to produce microalgae. So most of industries have the problem with the wastewater. So if we make more studies that show that it's possible to get products with high economical value using these wastewaters, I think it's enough, and it's what we need to show that is important, use them to this.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Joanna. I would maybe also address a question to Amir. Amir, yes. As I'm also very into applied research and looking at how we transfer things to industry, I would ask you, what are the current challenges for the uptake of the technology, for quicker uptake?
The main challenge could be the space demand, and when we want to apply such technology in the treatment plants, we have problems. But currently, especially recent years, we have more intensified technologies and also new novelties like what I'm going to do in my PhD. We are going to use a kind of a macro organism to help us to intensify the technology in order to reduce the land demand. And but when we are going to the stakeholders and talking to the managers of the treatment plants, they always say, no, this technology needs more space. But when we are talking about environmental aspects, yes, in fact, it needs more space, but you see, you have more green spaces, so you will contribute to the environmental impact as well. So then they see, yes, this technology is good. But in fact, the main challenge is this. To find a way to intensify the process.
Okay. In terms of economically, have you also performed any study in terms of if the payback, whatever, for its implementation, would that be acceptable as it is currently?
Yeah, as you see in my background, you see a readbed technology which applied in one of the university dormitory in Iran, and I'm in the center, as you see in the back. Yeah, and we discussed a lot to the chief of the university there, and to encourage them to use this technology. They said, no, this technology is not working. We need to have advanced technology. But after a small trial, we could show them that this technology works well. And now he's really happy to this technology. He has also a lot of efforts of the governmental managers, and they are praising him.
Great, thank you. Okay, then I will maybe address the last question to Pedro. Now going back a little to fundamental research, Pedro, I would ask you, what are your further work, and how you're planning to achieve them in your lab scale, namely?
Okay, thank you. So this work was performed with very small scale samples, so in the order of grams per liter. So upscaling it's an important step, and also the combination of organisms, as mentioned in the previous work. Sometimes you have to reap the benefits of consortia of organisms as they exist in nature, of course, and they can improve on each other. So next step would also be to see the effect of multiple organisms working together on reaching the same substrate, and comparing to the individual action of each organism.
Great. So the path is already drawn some way. Thank you. So you have a lot of work ahead. Yeah. Wishing all the best. Okay, then our time is up. Thank you very much for your presentations, Joana, João, Pedro, and Amir. Wish you all the best for your research. I'm sure you are in the right path, and everything will go smoothly. I hope the audience had a great time as we had, and that you also have been able to acquire a lot of new knowledge. So now I will hand it over to João Graça to close today's program. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much, Muriel and speakers, for this excellent session. And with this, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the end of our online conference, Circular Economy, Make It Happen. I would like to remind you that this conference was organized by the Smart Waste Portugal young professionals. If you want to know more, please visit the website shared in the chat and explore what the group is all about, and sign up if you're interested. This conference showcased the best of research in circular economy that is being carried out by young professionals in Portugal. As I mentioned previously, an award will be attributed to the 3 best presentations. So the first place will win a scholarship to participate in the ISWA Swiss 2022 Winter School in Texas, USA. The second place and third places will receive sponsorship for participating in training or education initiatives. And this ranking will be announced tomorrow through the Smart Waste Portugal communication channels. We will also publish all our presenters' abstracts and in the conference book, which will be made available soon on the Smart Waste Portugal website. We'll also send all of these by email to the participants of the conference. So on behalf of all the organizers and committee members, I would like to express my gratitude and to our wonderful speakers and participants for making this event such a success. We hope you have enjoyed the sessions and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.